There was a trade. It's a big one. Minnesota gets Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo, and it's the Knicks that swing the move to get a center, Karl-Anthony Towns. Michael Bolton does not know what to do with his hands.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I am sure glad that I didn't base my entire branding around going to the same college as some of my teammates. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Go to FanDuel.com right now to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free, and we are available on all platforms. Bang, 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 bang. I'm so many bangs that I want from you guys, and thumbs and comments and shares, because this has just happened, and there is going to be more information on this trade coming through later on, but I wanted to get something out now. I was just grabbing my eco-friendly green shopping bags, heading out the door to go to the supermarket to grab some stuff to cook for, to watch the grand final, footy food. That's what I was doing. And then I saw the notification, went, I got to do this. We have to go up here and make projection adjustments and record a little bit of a show. If you haven't heard, it is a trade. Let's put the details up on the screen right now, because Donte DiVincenzo, Nova Knicks legend, moves to Minnesota along with the double royal Julius Randle, two-time All-NBA legend, traded for Karl-Anthony Towns. The Knicks also chucked a Pistons-protected first-round pick into that deal as well, and this is truth, there is still a third team that has to be involved and something has to happen because of second apron problems / restrictions. These teams can't take any extra money back, so another team's got to get in and facilitate. So at this point of me recording this, at 1 p.m. Australian time on Saturday, 11 p.m. Eastern on the 27th of September, I don't know what that is. I don't think that Randle or DiVincenzo are getting routed somewhere else. I think it's going to be more smaller moving pieces and parts, but the main portion of this trade is here. It is happening. It is done. The Knicks got the news on old mate Mitchell Robinson. They lost Isaiah Hartenstein, and they said, we need a center. We knew you did need a center, and they went out and got one. Now they've probably got some depth issues at forward, but we can talk about that in another part of the show. But this is huge. This is a gigantic deal. It's a guy that many people think is terrible in Julius Randle. It's a guy that many people think is terrible in Karl-Anthony Towns, and no one will be able to trade for him, and that contract's going to kill them. Well, those two things both weren't true, clearly, and something happened with both of those deals. When we talk about Towns, we thought there was going to be an inflection point for the Wolves in this upcoming offseason in deals that they might have to make to move on from one of them, and they've obviously chosen their path, and then Randle has a player option now as well, so who knows? This is fresh stuff that has just happened, and we are still trying to figure out exactly what that is that happens. Well, let's just go through exactly what the trade involved, and we'll start by looking at the Knicks side. They get Karl-Anthony Towns, and this is going to be one of the biggest challenges in Tom Thibodeau's coaching career. How does he get Karl-Anthony Towns to have a single-digit usage percentage? That is going to be tough. We know what he does. We know how he reduces coaches, and of course I'm being facetious here, but it's something to watch. Now, Tom Thibodeau gets a harsh rap at times from people, maybe from this guy right here, I don't know. But he does show an ability at times to adapt. If he's got good players, he will just play good players. There are times when he does very frustrating things, and he's not going to put Towns into the Jericho Sims, Mitchell Robinson 6% usage role. He's not going to do that. I actually think this is a massive, massive W for Towns' role. We talked about this 2 years ago and predicted that it would happen, and it did happen, that Towns moving to power forward would kill so much of his value. For many reasons. He would lose field goal percentage by being further away from the rim and seeing his 2-point percentage drop. Check, happened. He would lose rebounds by playing next to Rudy Gobert and playing further away from the rim. Check, that happened. He would lose blocks by playing further away from the rim, guarding power forwards instead of centers. He wouldn't be the guy protecting the rim. Check, that happened. Guess what? He's the center now. He plays next to OG Anunoby, not a good rebounder. The usage players on this team are Brunson, and it's Towns. Like, Bridges is not suited to be a high usage player. He's a moderate usage player. So Towns' usage could even go up. But the things that killed his value from a first-round guy into a guy in the third or fourth round, they're gone now. He was not a super, super high blocks guy, but he went from 1.6 blocks per 100 possessions to 1. He went from 14 rebounds per 100 to I think 10. And the Knicks team has no real good rebounders. His 2-point percentage went down to like 55 when it could be like 57, 58. I think I put that there as top 20 for Karl-Anthony Towns, is where I think that he may have moved to. That is a very, very, as I put the wrong screen up, sorry about that. That is a very cautious view. What I meant to put up was this, and I didn't even have time to change the logos on that because obviously Towns doesn't play for the Wolves anymore, but I'm going to show you his numbers. 22 and 8 with 2 threes and 3 assists and 0.7 blocks and 50 and 87. That were his numbers last season. And back to me saying top 20, that was cautious. I would not be shocked if Towns is like 12 or 13 in category leagues. I would not be surprised at that. I think there is a real distinct possibility that this change in scenery, but more importantly, change in role, enables Towns to just do those things that made him a first-round staple for years. So I'm not saying that he's going to be a guaranteed first-round player or even an early second-round player, but he is absolutely in that dead zone mix between that 10 to 18 type area in category leagues. He has to be in that zone for me. I don't think that Tibbs is going to kill his usage. Tibbs has coached Towns before in the past, remember? And that is when Towns was doing more rebounding and more shot blocking, and usage was still really good. He did this. He's done all this before. I think Towns moves into being like a very clear second-round points league guy as well. And it's a clear W, like for Towns' value. I don't see any way that this is an L. If you've drafted already and got him in the 30s, W for you. That's huge, huge news. And I don't see any way that goes in any other direction. Massive, massive stuff. We're going to talk on the Wolves side in a sec. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. NFL fans can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So, in the middle of the game, you're watching it, you get a hunch something interesting is going to happen, you think you know where the play is going. Well, you got access to the live stats, you can see the live play-by-play as well, on exactly the same page that you would place your bets over on FanDuel. So, get yourself started. As a new customer, place a $5 bet and you get guaranteed in bonus bets $200 back. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So go to FanDuel.com and don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, so just in case you've forgotten, the trade was Donte DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, a first-round pick, all going to Minnesota in exchange for Karl-Anthony Towns, who goes back to the New York Knickerbockers. So we've talked about the impact of Towns, which is what the Knicks receive in this deal. Again, there is potentially going to be, or there's definitely going to be more stuff happening. Whether it's important or not, I don't know. But in terms of what the Wolves get back, they get back Julius Randle, and they get back Donte DiVincenzo. Now, Randle was a guy that I was probably higher on than others in a category league perspective, and points league I think we're about in the right spot. We still don't fully have clarity on him and his shoulder injury. There was some doubt that maybe he's going to be fully healthy for training camp, and we don't really know that yet. I am of the opinion that this is going to drop him down a little bit in ranking. So I would have taken Randle, and I did in some drafts inside the top 55 for category, and in the top 20 for points leagues. I believe this pushes him down to that top 75 range for categories, and if we get more bad news on his shoulder, then I push him even further down than that. I think it moves him down in a points league from maybe like the second, third round to the fourth round, perhaps. And there's one really big reason for that. Minutes. I don't think he's playing 36 minutes a night under Chris Fitch. Like he might, especially if he's got a bung shoulder, he might play 33. And obviously, Anthony Edwards is going to have a lot of usage, and that's cool because he played with Jalen Brunson, who had a lot of usage as well. But Gobert is going to take rebounds off him, and Gobert is going to play more than what Mitchell Robinson did. That's a part of that. And I just don't know how much he's going to have the ball in his hands with Edwards and Conley both having the ball in their hands. So does Randle take on a larger playmaking role? I don't know. I don't think he does. I think it actually probably drops down. And I am pretty certain now that DiVincenzo loses all value. He was on the fence for me as a 12-team league player before the Mitchell Robinson injury news. He jumped up to be like a 10th round guy because he was going to have to play more. And now he's a very clear bench piece. And so he'll be playing on the bench with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, with Rob Dillingham, with Joe Ingles. That's just a lot of guys there. So he's back to that original position, DiVincenzo, that he was with the Knicks at the beginning of last season, where Barrett was there, would start, and then there was Quickly and Hart, and even Quentin Grimes and all those guys on the bench, and he couldn't play enough. So I think this takes DiVincenzo very much out of 10 and 12-team league discussions for category and points league scenarios. Moves him into that top 175 type of an area where he was pushing top 110 before. So I think that moves him very clearly in my mind out of that zone of being a guy that we want to look at. I'm just going to keep, as we're recording this, or as I'm recording this, and you're watching after the fact, I'm just going to keep, here's some more information from Shams. The Knicks are sending Daquan Jeffries and draft compensation to Charlotte in a 3-team deal. Okay, so that obviously doesn't impact anything in terms of the value of players or anything like that. They probably have to give up some draft compensation there to do that. I've had someone I just see here on the on my Twitter replying to stuff saying Cat won't play center though. You mean he will? Like, what are you talking about? That is that is a mind-blowing comment. But as I will say often on this show, is that no matter what outlandish idea you might think that you have, or that someone might think of value, there is going to be somebody out there who thinks something that just makes no sense. I would never in a million years where I think that someone would come to me, well, they won't play him at center, mate. They'll just go with Jericho Sims. Okay. You know what? Now that I'm sitting and thinking, maybe they don't. Maybe they don't play him at center. Maybe he plays at power forward, and OG Anunoby plays at the 3, and Brunson's at the 1, and Bridges is at the 2, and Josh Hart still comes off the bench. Maybe I am. Maybe that's. Now I'm just trying to. Now my brain is like blowing up in my head. There's no way that they put Towns in to replace Randle. There's just no way. Now I've lost my mind. No, they haven't. So this guy's confused the absolute shit out of me. No way. No. Towns is playing a center. What if he's not? What the? Oh, okay. Sorry about this. These live reactions as I'm trying to figure out what is going on here. Anyway, so the Wolves get Randle. The Wolves get DiVincenzo. The Knicks make me lose my mind. I'm certain he's playing center. God, that has frustrated me to no end. To have that confusion in my head. Let's have a look at some of Randle's numbers from last season. Just take a look at what we're dealing with here. And again, I just think that his minutes and his usage at 30, that might hold, but 35 minutes might become 33. He averaged 24, 9, and 5 last season. So you could argue that 9 becomes 8.5 rebounds. You could argue that 5 becomes 4.2 assists. 24 points might be 23 points or something along those lines. The efficiency was, the defense won't change. That's cool. The 47 and 78% shooting, that was pretty good last season. People think he's a massive negative in percentages, but he wasn't. He was pretty good last season. He has been in the past, but he was good last season. So they're all really, really solid numbers from Randle, but I just think the big thing is going to be, will he play those 35 minutes a night? I don't think so. And then there's DiVincenzo, who last season played a ton of minutes down the stretch. He ended with 29 minutes total for the season, 15 points, 3.5 triples. Not a lot else going on there, but how he would play 29 minutes on this team would require injuries because Conley, Edwards, McDaniels. Remember, this is a team that lost 1 player and gained 2. So there's a trickling down effect on this Minnesota team. There is a trickling down effect on the Minnesota team that we have to be aware of. Let's take a look at what I think at the moment are the winners of this trade. I think I do, again, despite my brain falling out of my ass at the moment, I think it is Karl-Anthony Towns who's a winner of this deal. I think Josh Hart is a winner because I do believe that Josh Hart will now start at the 3 with Anunoby at the 4. And Hart, while Anunoby is not a good rebounder, Hart is, so you could, whatever you want to flip that. I think Josh Hart will start now, and that does now make Hart a draftable back-end player, even though he's got limited upside. Hart can also pass quite a bit as well, which is what Randle did. I actually think it helps Brunson because I think that Randle's usage was maybe going to be higher. I don't think Towns is running 30 usage. And we also lost DiVincenzo out of the mix too, so I think Brunson has to do more. And part of the issue with Brunson was his numbers really spiked after Randle went out last season. And we wondered how it would push back down. Well, it will push back down, but maybe not as much now. I think it helps OG Anunoby. OG gets more ability to play at the 4, which generally means closer to the basket than the 3. It means more rebounds. It means maybe more blocks as well. I think that helps OG. It helps Juice McBride. You're losing 2 players, you're gaining 1. So it helps a Juice McBride go from a 17-minute-a-night player into probably a 23-minute-a-night player, backing up the 1 with some minutes, backing up the 2. It means that someone like a Landry Shamet, I think, will have to make the roster, because their roster is still it's incredibly thin. It is incredibly thin, their roster. So don't be surprised that McBride's playing 23 a night and Shamet's getting 15 a night or something like that, because they're not relying on Paco Dadier or Tyler Kolek or Kevin McCullough. I think it also helps Mikal Bridges, but out of the main guys, Hart, Towns, Brunson, OG, I thought Bridges' impact was probably smaller. But he's still going to get a boost here without really too much worry. I'm pretty confident he's going to get something happen there. I'm going to come back and talk about the losers in a sec. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It is the easiest and the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 individual player stat projections, and you watch those winnings roll in. Right now, we've got 1 game left, but Caleb Williams gets you the old automatic win. 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That is an absolute free W. You can also now, on Prize Picks, if you choose the right options, you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. It is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California and Texas. So don't forget to get across and download the Prize Picks app and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That is code LOCKEDONNBA on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, so we've talked about the who gets, or the Knicks get their players, the Wolves get their players. We've talked about the winners. So who are the losers? Julius Randle, I think, is a loser. I think that he drops in value. I think he was a guy that I would have considered in round 5, and now I probably look 6 or 7. I think DiVincenzo moves out of being a 12-team league player. I don't think that I don't think it impacts Anthony Edwards really at all. Jaden McDaniels, I don't think it impacts really. I wouldn't be drafting him anyway. It might have an impact on Mike Conley. Maybe he loses an assist or 2 here. That's possible. But the bench guards is where we really hurt, and that's for deeper formats where Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Rob Dillingham lose out. Now, you would say, why would Rob Dillingham lose out? Because it's just an extra guard in the mix, and guys like Joe Ingles, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Donte DiVincenzo, all guys playing off the bench, they can all work in short spurts as point guards. So the idea was that Rob Dillingham, a 19-year-old rookie coming out of Kentucky who played off the bench, would be your only backup point guard to Mike Conley. And now we know that rookie point guards suck. Now Dillingham's role, I think, has to be reduced. And that gives them ability. If he's great, they can push it up, but they're not going to be relying upon him as much because you are adding an extra name into the mix with 25 minutes or so of Donte DiVincenzo. And that is going to hurt what all of those bench guys, Ingles, Alexander-Walker, and Dillingham do. Because it's just somebody else who can handle the ball and can shoot and can score, and Rob doesn't have to be relied upon to do those things. So that is where we're at with this deal. I'll throw the graphic up again so you can see. Donte DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, first-round pick, all go to Minnesota. Karl-Anthony Towns heads across to the Knicks. Daquan Jeffries goes to the Hornets. Of course he does. And that is where we're at. More information comes to hand. We will do more shows on that. Don't worry. That will happen. I just want to get this out as quickly as I can. Hit the subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and leave your comments down below. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. My brain's broken with Towns not playing center. No, he is. He's playing center. Surely he's playing center. And surely we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.